We've all read it.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, it is 5:30 on the dot, so let's call this meeting to order. And we will start with the first
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so now we'll move on to the roll call. Commissioner Mazzoni.
Here.
Commissioner Nicholas.
Yes.
Commissioner Palmer.
Yep.
And Commissioner Parra and myself is present. All right, so number 3 is the non-agenda public comment. So this is a time for anyone in the public who would like to make a comment to the Planning Commission that is not in reference to an agenda item. Is there anyone here? All right, moving on to item 4.
Greg, you got one.
I'm sorry, was the proposed Airbnb on the agenda? I haven't seen it.
Yes, sir, that is an agenda
Is
item.
this the time for us to come forward and talk on that, or no?
No, this is for anything that's not on the agenda, so.
Okay, thank you.
Anything new?
All right, so number 4, conflicts of interest. Do we have any conflicts with our fellow commissioners?
I don't believe so.
All right, so now we'll move on to the public hearing. So we're going to introduce the agenda item here, which is the conditional use permit for a short-term rental property, and we'll move on to the staff report.
Okay, so first off, it needs to be mentioned that the property does have its own CC&Rs, which you all have received a copy of. And the property owner must comply with those CC&Rs. So before we move forward, one option that the Planning Commission might consider is to table this item until the applicant has received approval through their CC&Rs to conduct this type of business. We are not the enforcement agent for the CC&Rs. So the property is located at 2331 Mountain View Drive. That zoning for that planned unit development is RL, which is residential, single-family, low density. So Mountain Meadows is a planned unit development that was codified in 2006. Their CC&Rs, it looks like, were recorded in 2009. They are codified under the Weed Muni Code 182100 District Established Mountain Meadows Subdivision. Our Muni Code does allow for vacation rentals to be in any of our zoning. So we can allow them to have a vacation rental as long as they, fit the guidelines that are established within our Muni Code. But they also need to comply and follow their own CC&Rs. So you guys have the ability to approve this. You have the ability, like I said, to table it. You have the ability to make any other action that you see fit. As far as CEQA is concerned, vacation rentals in an existing home for short-term rental, they don't change the inherent residential quality of the site. So they do, there is a CEQA exemption. Other than that, I guess on the conditions of approval, under their planned unit development, they do also have to apply for a home occupation permit. That is a requirement of the PUD that's codified. So prior to operation, the applicant must apply for the home occupation permit with the City of Weed. All conditions, including the use permit, home occupation permit, and the short-term rental section of the Muni Code, are incorporated by reference in the staff report. They also must apply for a business license, and that's to be maintained at all times in operation. The property owner shall register to pay the transient occupancy tax within the city. And prior to operation as a vacation rental, applicable inspections per our Muni Code shall occur as far as health department, building department, and anything else. Any questions?
No, that was very thorough, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the public hearing portion. And so this is an opportunity for anybody who is opposed to the application to come forward and speak.
Do you want to hear from the applicant first?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
Let's
that's okay.
go ahead and hear from the applicant.
Hello. I'm Sandra Haugen. I'm not the applicant. I am their property manager. So I manage over 300 rentals in Siskiyou County, both long-term and short-term. I have an office in Mount Shasta. So the biggest thing, as she brought up, was the CCNRs. The homeowners have every intent of complying with the CCNRs, which is one rental basically every 60 days, so you can't have more than one over a 60-day period. So that would be designated in, so if someone came for 2 weeks or a month, then we wouldn't be able to have another one for another month. And so that would all be regulated in compliance with what's proposed in the CCNRs. That being said, there is also no CCNR board present. I think there are 4 homes in the subdivision, so that would need to be put into place. But as a licensed realtor broker and a certified property manager, I'm also held to a standard of which people look to me, doing the Airbnbs that I do, to be able to comply with what I'm required to do. So both Jan and myself have every intention of making that happen. So he'd like to see the HOA flourish just like everybody else is and keep the home going. And he lives in San Francisco or down south. He's a Google executive or works for Google. And he had a tragic thing happen down with his family down there. And so this home they bought about a month and a half ago. Or 2 months ago, time flies these days. And they're using it as their getaway. So they don't have a trigger where they lost their child. And so it's their getaway just to kind of be with their family and have a space. But yeah, again, every intention of complying with those CCNRs. Okay, do you have any questions for me?
Has the applicant applied with the homeowners association?
There is no homeowners association. There's the CCNR documents. There is no board. There is nobody that is doing anything in compliance with those.
But there is people listed on the CCNR as part of that board.
The person that wrote it is the person that wrote it in 2009. The address listed on there is defunct. It's not a location anymore. He's not party to it anymore. There are other people in the association that are doing things that don't comply with that, and that's not what happens here today. That's not about that. That would have to be brought up. They'd have to have a full board in place, and right now there isn't one. But that being said, they have every intention of complying with what is written so that they're not in violation.
Isn't that basically the same thing without having a board? I mean, what's already been written here?
It's basically what a board means, that if there's a violation, then there's no one to send a letter. If you want to make a change to the proposal, they have to have 50% of the people who own land and homes, so the 50% of people have to vote in favor of a change. And so you have to have president, vice president, similar to what you guys do
Right.
here, to be able to hear a complaint if one happens. But if there's no violation, then there's no complaint to be heard
Well,
either.
With Mr. Newton, it was the owner of the land, right? And this was this his stipulation on buying the properties or having the properties and then selling them to the people that put the houses in or built the houses?
So in 2009, when the CCNRs were written,
Yeah.
it says any homeowner can rent, and I have a copy, you have a copy.
I
and
do,
have a
I've
copy.
read it.
Any homeowner can rent their property as long as it is within no more than 60 days or less.
So who are you going to go back and talk to? I mean, in reference of having everything agree upon the 60 days and all of that.
I think that if there's no violation, there's nothing to agree to. If you're following the CCNRs that are in place, then you're in compliance with them. So if there's a violation of those CCNRs, then a board would have to be put together to then address that violation. But if you're in compliance with what's written on the paperwork, then there's nothing to be addressed, because it specifically says a homeowner may rent their home as long as it's under this compliance, which is 60 days.
Mm-hmm. So are these folks, would you know, are they going to be a regular thing that this is going to be?
Well, I'll be managing it. So
Yeah,
I'll be in charge of that.
right.
So it'll be on Airbnb.
Okay.
It'll be listed in there that this is what happens. So once it gets rented, you count the days, and then I would block
Right.
out so nobody can come in and do it during that time. And that's more than likely when the owners will come up and spend their couple weeks is in between those 60-day times. And they were here for 2 weeks last week, and then they just left, which is why he couldn't come. So I came on his behalf so that he didn't have to fly
Okay.
in for it.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
All right. Any other questions from the commission?
You know, I'm reading use restrictions, and it's item C. And it says, leading into it, it says, and the terms of said rental shall not be for a term less than 60 days.
Correct. So what that means is that you can do one stay and you cannot do another one within that 60-day window. So like,
Or you could look at it differently and say that it can't be rented for less than 2 months,
okay,
right?
so we can put it on as a 60-day rental?
That's how I read it. That's how I'm reading it.
Well, I
Same-
got it.
The same thing. So it's either or.
Right.
It's
And I think
however
that
they
would be
wanna
a
interpret
question to send out to everyone that's a homeowner there to say, here's our intent, how do you feel about this? If the neighbors who I know are present here are in compliance with once every 60 days, that might be okay to them. Because when you have a vacation rental marketed through the platforms that I use, everybody is certified, they're vented, we have video cameras on the property, we know when they're coming, we're able to watch everything. We're not doing this to make this a party house. This home is a $1 million home. It's gonna be treated and rented out at a price that is of a $1 million home. I mean,
Right, and I understand that, and I think the intentions that you're saying is true.
Right.
But I'm also gonna take a look
Sure,
as a neighbor or somebody was there on
Right.
who do I want coming in regularly or not regularly, so that's just
Right.
things I'm looking at.
sure.
So
And
it has to be more specific for me, more concrete
Absolutely.
in that, and I also obviously like to hear from some of the folks that have
And
some
that's,
issues.
that's
but-
why we're all here, is to discuss that. You know, and I can wait and have a rebuttal after we hear from everybody else, so
Sharon?
that's fine.
Have you contacted the other people that are on the homeowners thing?
I have, they were all notified by the letter that you guys sent out, and then I talked with both of them as well.
Okay, do we have any other questions from the commission?
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you. And so now we'll move on to the public hearing portion for anyone who wants to oppose the permit application.
Hi, good evening. Ben Wetstein. I live at 2323 Mountain View, which is the neighboring property to the proposed Airbnb. Just to get started, I furnished the city with some CCNRs, which you guys have. My interpretation of the reading, as well as my wife's and the gentleman sitting behind us, was that it is a term no less than 60 days. So I took that as that if there's going to be a rental in place for Airbnb, it has to be a minimum of 60 days, 60 days. So that was our interpretation of it as the resident. I believe Chuck will say the same thing. I did get in contact with Bill Newton. He was the one of the signatures on the CCNRs. He's the guy who owns the majority of that property up there. I met with him last week, advised him what was going on. He wanted me to advise the planning commission that he is absolutely opposed to an Airbnb if it is because it's against the current CCNRs. Regarding the board issue, that is also a question that I had, and I asked him about that. He said the CCNRs were legally put in place without an official board. So his understanding was that you don't even need a board to get the CCNRs in place. They did it legally, and it's all registered with the county, so I don't think that that's an issue. But as far as the board goes, I was in contact with Chuck here the past couple days. We do have a plan on putting a board together, not only because of this issue, but we have other people that are starting to come in and develop the land. So it's probably just prudent to have a board together on this. And again, that is the concern. Real quickly, the concerns that I have on this are, I got some security concerns here. I said, we live right next door. Our property, or the property for the proposed Airbnb is literally built right next to our property line. So, and we have a big clearing out there. I wanted to furnish the board with some pictures here. But it just seems to reason that any vacationers are gonna be tempted to come over on our side of the property to get the view of the mountain, to get access to the stream that is there. That would just be the natural path one would probably take if they wanted to enjoy the scenery out there. And again, if I can approach and provide those pictures, I would appreciate you guys taking a look at it. I have 4 young kids. They're playing back there all the time in that clearing right next to that property. I got two of my kids are 9-year-old girls. For me, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of having to live into a state of heightened alert and concern for the safety of my kids, as this property would become a revolving door of strangers. The vetting process, I understand that whatever processes that are available, that would be utilized, but I think it would be inadequate. A picture and getting a name, basically anybody can rent an Airbnb as long as they have a credit card. I mean, that was been my experience with renting Airbnbs. I think that's wholly inadequate to vet out people who may cause problems in the area. We are concerned about the noise, the partying. They have a very steep driveway, which would, during the winter months, probably make somebody want to have to park up on the street, which is also against the CCNRs. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to the proposal?
Thank you, gentlemen. Melissa Wetstein. I live at 2323 Mountain View. I'm not going to repeat anything that my husband said, but I fully adopt the concerns about the security. I'm here to be able to address some of the legal concerns that were raised by the proponent of this. Equitable servitudes include CCNRs. It's covered by the California Civil Code 5975. Subdivision A indicates that it does not need to have a board and that the CCNRs can be enforced by any owner as a separate interest. CCNRs, if you're unaware, run with the land, not with the owner themselves, which means when they were established in 2009, they're going to remain with the property for all time. Because the Civil Code 5975 allows any of the owners to be able to file, and the filing would be in civil court for an equitable servitude, asking them to issue an injunction against the Airbnb. I can tell you, I know that this board has the ability to table this. Obviously, I want to give everyone every opportunity to be able to seek the best use of their land. But I can tell you, you have more than 50% of the owners here, and we have representation from the Newtons that they're against this for the remainder of the property that's there. So while an application can be made for the board, the neighborhood has already discussed this situation. The entire neighborhood adopts the belief that this CCNR, the way it was written, was expressly made in order to make sure that nobody is going to do a quote-unquote short-term rental for less than 60 days. So a first and a last would be 60 days. I think anyone reading these could interpret it that way, and obviously with understanding why CCNRs go in place, that is the reasonable interpretation of that. So for those reasons, unless there's other questions about the legal portion, I can tell you that each of us here have a right, and discussing it amongst the neighbors, we are prepared to take action to enforce our CCNRs. So for that reason, we would ask this board to follow our CCNRs that are properly on file with both the Weed Municipal Code as well as the California Civil Code with our Superior Court. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else to speak?
Good evening. My name's Chuck Williams. I live at 2314 Mountain View Drive. You're going to have to be patient with me. I got a disability with VA. I'm a little slow, so. I built that cabin. And it got carried away. Got oversized and everything. But anyway, I sold it, and I moved to Brookings. I was looking for another place for peace. And Brookings, they have a bunch of these Airbnb things down there. So it was peace up there. So I come back, and I built this cabin on this other lot. Because it is peaceful up there. And, you know, I'm getting older and stuff. This gentleman that bought the cabin across the street, he should have done his homework before he bought that place, and he should have looked at the CCNRs. And I think, you know, it shouldn't even got past the city clerk and come this far. It should have been turned down, denied. That gentleman, I read his application. He said he's going to be there part of the time and enjoy it and everything. And but then he leaves. Then when he leaves, this place becomes a miniature motel. People want to become in and out, and people go on vacations. They have parties and stuff, so it's going to be noise. So I'm asking you gentlemen to deny this thing because we don't need this in our neighborhood. Just think, would you want this thing next to you? I'm sorry, I get a little emotional here because that cabin, that neighborhood means a lot to me because that's where, I'm going to spend the rest of my life. And having this thing across the street is really going to be, it might, if it happens and we can't, so I might have to sell my place and move again. And I don't want to do that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, do we have any other opponents to the proposal that would like to speak tonight? All right, so now we will go on to any proponents that would like to speak on behalf, or Ms. Hagen, if you'd like to do your rebuttal.
So just really quick to address those comments that were brought up. The simple thing is, with Airbnb, while it screens it, there's two ways to check your guests. One is Instant Book, where you have a picture, like Ben stated, and they have to have an ID, and that's it. There's another way, which is you have to pre-approve everybody, which means they come in, you question them, you ask them what they're doing, how many people. So that's one way to clear who's coming and going at all times and have a communication before they come in. That being said, with the number of Airbnbs that I do manage that are all in compliance, what I would suggest is, in order to be in compliance with the CCNRs and do a 60-day minimum, I'm sure that that wouldn't be an issue because you can put it on Airbnb, and I have a lot of people that come up here for a month and 2 months at a time. And so that's the stipulation is, this is a 60-day rental, you come in for 60 days, and that becomes part of the permit that's issued. And so there's no violation, and if that gets violated, then the permit gets taken away. I mean, that's as simple as that.
And who takes it away?
Well, you guys would you'd revoke the permit.
Who do we have to enforce it?
Well,
These
you're
people bought their homes
authorizing-
in a place where this wouldn't happen to them. And they had rules when your guy bought it, so I suggest,
I didn't represent him.
okay, my suggestion would be the man has a real nice vacation home,
Mm-hmm.
and when he's not there, it's empty.
Okay, so even if it's in compliance with the CCNRs, it's not, you can't use the home for what he,
It will never be enforced by anybody. It won't be, we won't be watching it, they won't be watching it. These people bought property in a
They'll be
place where this
watching
wouldn't
it.
happen.
right, but,
And who would they complain to?
well, they're going to create a board. I mean, it has to be done because right now, the people that do live there, so there's 50% of the owners here because there are 3 owners, I think there's a 4th house. This isn't a place to grieve, but grievances, but everybody's in violation of some form of that CCNR that's currently listed. There is no architectural board. Homes are being built without an architectural committee. There's nobody approving the plans that are required. That's all part of what a board is to be created for. But you can't pick and choose which CCNRs you want to go for. And if Jan had come in, the person that owns the home, and tried to do this without proper management and saying, I'm not going to listen to the CCNRs, it's not going to be an in and out, because if it's 60 days, that's a total of 6 people that can stay in a given year. So it's not an in and out. And the driveway that was brought up, it's a heated driveway. So they intend on using that propane driveway. The old owners that, I did represent the old owners, they did not. So they plowed it by hand, they had issues. These people have every intention of heating that driveway with the propane that's in place so that it's not an issue, so that there is no street parking. So, I mean, and they both know who I am, and they also know my cell phone numbers. And if there's an issue, I mean, I've known, Wetstein for many years. And every one of my vacation rentals, every one of the neighbors, I have never had parties at any of them. But if they do, they have my number, they call me, I'm there. I will leave at 2 a.m. if there's something happening, and I will be there. That's why I do this, is because I live in the neighborhood too, with nice homes, and people should be able to enjoy their home and use it because they have rights. As long as they're abiding by the rules, that shouldn't be taken away from them. And 6 days a year should not be, and it won't be necessarily that many, should not be. So put that stipulation into the permit use. But I guarantee you may not be watching it, but I know everybody else will be watching it. So if they see more than one person coming in and out, you're going to hear about it. I know I'm going to hear about it.
And once we allow it, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yes, you can. You can take, the permit is, I have to be in compliance. Jan has to be in compliance with the rules of that permit. So you put into the rules of the permit that this must be followed. You can actually, I have one in Dunsmuir that's in county. They're requiring him to put up a fence. So you could say, you must, before you can operate this permit, you must have a fence blocking, the neighboring house so that they cannot cross over. And he brought up, they're going to cross over to see the view of the mountain. If you saw the pictures that were submitted with the application, the view of the mountain is the living room. That's what's going, so you're not going to have a motel in and out. It won't be allowed.
So why wouldn't we just leave the rules that the people bought the property on heck alone and not make a vacation rental out of it and let it go by whoever bought the property knew what they were buying?
Because-
And if they did know what they were buying, if they didn't, they should have done their homework. I bought a place I wasn't too happy with, but
Right.
I ended up with it. I ended up being the way it was, and that's
Right.
part of life.
Right.
So when they bought it knowing it would not be a vacation home. So why would we have the authority to change what the agreement of that property out there was?
If it's a 60-day minimum, they're not in violation. That's what I'm saying.
Then who are you gonna hire to enforce it? Not we, PD, gonna enforce it.
We do not enforce their CCNRs.
I knew that.
Yeah.
We cannot touch it, so we're
So-
not changing it.
As far as the off-street parking, that is built into their planned unit development. On-street parking is not allowed, period. They have to have adequate off-street parking at all times.
I'm not worried
That
about
is
the
what
parking. They'll
we
get
enforce.
They'll get their Teslers off the road, but,
So Sandy, I'm curious if there is a board and there's a violation of CCNR, at that point, how does that become enforced? Does that go to Weed PD, or is that a legal action through the Superior Court?
they have to sue these people.
No, it's written in to the CCNRs on how to deal with it. It says that the board must put a letter out if he's in violation. If he's not in violation and he's doing what he's supposed to do according to the CCNRs, then there's no violation to come after. And I think, I would hope that if we have that written in there, and it's no more than 6 potential people a year, I would think there might be a change of some perspective. I may be wrong, but 6 a year is not a motel. It's not an in and out. And people who are paying,
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
When you say 6 people, are you talking about one person, 6 people, each time that they come up?
No, he's talking about 6 months out of the year being
No.
rented.
I'm saying one party, one guest, and this will only
Right,
sleep,
but that one guest may
8.
have 10 other people.
it'll be maxed out. You're only allowed to have X number of people for the beds, and there will only be 4 beds in the property. So the most you can have is 8 people.
And who enforces that?
I do.
She would.
Like I said again, we have no enforcement on
Well, I
changing
mean,
the
I could
code.
understand what she's saying.
We have,
But then that's still not just 6 people. It's like 6 individuals that are going to rent it for the year.
For a
But
60-day
they could have
period.
up to 8 people.
For 60
And
days.
so if one person happens to leave, another person can come in and
No.
still keep it at 8, or?
No.
I'm just saying it,
It would be like my family going on a 2-month vacation,
right?
and and that person rents, and that's it. No one else can come and go.
Okay, I'm following now.
Right,
I
right.
just wanted to make sure, because the way you're saying it, it sounds like only 6 people could,
6 vacations a
one
year.
person, one
No.
person, no, not one person gonna go up there
Right.
and rent that for a month.
That's actually, I would respectfully argue with you on that, because I have some high-end homes in Mount Shasta. I have 3 of them, and they go between $450 and $750 a night, which is what
Mm-hmm.
this will fall. And people do come in and pay for 30 to 45-day stays if the avail ends in the summer. Not usually in the winter, but in the
Do you
summer.
check on these folks?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. I'm always communicating with them. I have everything, because they usually need supplies halfway through. How's everything with your stay? Is there anything I need? Or can I help you with anything? And they're always asking for recommendations. I'm a very hands-on person.
And so could I ask you, and maybe it's not real relevant, but how many places do you, this type of
Airbnb?
Airbnb, how many of these do you deal with daily or weekly or
20.
monthly?
So
Pardon?
I have 300 rentals, and 20 of them are Airbnbs.
20 are Airbnbs?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And that's quite a few, because on a daily basis, those are all licensed Airbnbs that are in and out.
And you're able to go and you can check on all these folks
Absolutely.
constantly?
Yes.
And how many of these have the same ordinance these people have?
They're all different.
Well, they're all, there's some are
How
county,
many are
some
even
are
close?
city.
Within the city.
They all are. So I have one in Dunsmuir that's in county, and the county has regulations, and so they put it into his permit which you're authorizing a permit, because I have to have the city approve a permit for Jan Bloom. So you have to put into that vacation rental permit, you may authorize as long as you, A, build a fence on this side of the property surrounding, B, no less than 60-day stay. That's what has to be on the permit and has to be followed. So it becomes part of the stipulations, and if those get violated or don't get done, the permit doesn't get issued. If it gets violated, the permit gets taken away, and then he doesn't have it. So he's not going to blow that chance.
Did I miss in here somewhere where it says a maximum of 8 people?
It will be, there's only going to be 4 beds, because it's only a 4-bedroom.
No, but I'm just saying that it's not in anything in here,
I
right?
believe it's on the permit, it's either 8 or,
Is it? I must have went by that or something.
it's
Let me take a
on
look.
section 14.8 acres, 1 to 5.
I don't,
I guess it doesn't ask you in the permit what it was, but there's only 4 beds. So we don't have pull-out sofas, it's not gonna be, and the sofas that they bought,
Okay.
I can tell you, are not very comfortable, so they won't be slept on, they're not,
Okay.
it's,
So maybe that's what the city needs to do too, is ask how many people would be maximum. I don't know if that's something could be done through the
that
council or
won't happen.
whatever.
What will
Well,
happen
I'm just
is,
asking, I'm just saying it.
somebody like me
I
will
want
get
to see
it,
it in writing.
which I have, and then I'll bring in my daughter and the other daughter, and then we decide we'll bring in the other ones, and pretty soon we have a whole crew there. That happens all the time. Everybody says it doesn't, they're dreaming.
Well, I'm not saying these folks.
Nobody's
are
gonna
do
drive over
that,
there
but-
at 2:00 in the morning and see how many people are in this room, or if they're partying, if they're not. We have no way of enforcing, we PD cannot enforce it. It would be silly to ask them to.
Well, it hasn't-
I
So
imagine
would say
we
we
PD would
don't do
enforce if
anything
there's
with this
infractions
until
of the
these
law.
people
Yeah,
out
they
there
would
behind her
not.
put a board
Just
together.
Do the rest there or not, yeah, they're not gonna, they do their driveway.
Because once they put their board together, then they will have the right, but they actually don't need a board. They put it in there so this wouldn't happen to
right.
them.
Well, they put it in so it's no less than 60 days. It does
That
not
is
say you
correct.
can't do an Airbnb, so what we're asking for is you put in the 60-day period.
Once it's approved, I don't believe does anybody here believe a 60-day, and that's gonna be enforced by us? Truthfully.
You can pull a permit.
Yeah, it'll
I'm
be
just
enforced.
saying,
How many
I'm
permits
just
have
saying,
you ever seen us
I'm
pull?
not saying one way or another, I'm saying that I know you can pull a permit.
Right.
You
Through
can have it
public-
reviewed and all
Through
of that.
public hearing, the city
I would
would,
say-
through public hearing, the same process, the city council would have to pull
Right.
their
would say we-
the conditional use
The same thing
permit.
that could happen
Yeah.
here, however decision's gonna
And
go.
as
so.
far as the application and the CCNRs, the city did not have a copy nor know of the existence of the CCNRs until a concerned neighbor dropped them off after the agenda was already
They were
posted
filed
and
with
they
the
were
county?
noticed. They were filed with the county, correct?
And did the county get permission to break it, to change them?
Not that I'm aware of, no. I have no
We're not
idea.
asking for a change in the CCNRs. That's not part of this, that is not, and in fact, the rules, section 12, it says amendment of the CCNRs must be done by 50% of the landowners. So if Jan
I don't know if I agree with
wants to request a change in the CCNRs, he has to submit it, or the board has to submit it, he can put a request in, the board has to pass it through, and it has to be done by vote, and more than 50% of landowners and homeowners have to vote on it. That's a whole nother process. We're not asking for you to take a variance on the CCNRs, we're saying we want to do this and be in compliance with the CCNRs. So six stays a year is not, at the most, is not something that, I mean, I don't know, maybe they can come back and talk, I don't know if 6 days a year is an issue. But if there's one person every 60 days, and that's probably not likely even gonna happen, one group, one party of 8 people.
One person
Yeah.
is throwing me, that's just.
One group of 8
don't
people.
fall for that one.
Right, one stay, one
group of
stay,
people,
yeah,
8 maximum.
8 maximum. And yes, that does
I
get,
still believe the people who own the property around it have a lot to say for it, because they bought it with the agreement this wasn't gonna happen to them. Number two, if we pass this thing, I do agree that they're gonna do whatever they want with this house once it's passed.
I-
We'll have no way of enforcing it. I don't believe the city will enforce it. I believe these guys could come in here and complain, and the people that own the property around will bitch, and the city of Weed will tell them we can't do anything about it, but have a planning commission meeting. Then it'll go over us to the planning commission.
Goes to a civil matter.
That's correct, and then it turns into that.
Right, and respectfully, I will say,
So this guy bought the thing knowing it wasn't gonna be a rental property, and I believe it should stay that way.
okay.
So do we have any further questions for Sandra outside of our opinions on the CCNR's intent?
Okay, if it turns into a rental property and you rent it out for 5 days, then that means these people have to pay 30 days of rent?
So it will be advertised as a 60-day rental only.
So they can
That's
only
it.
rent for 60 days?
Correct. With the
So if somebody comes in, they're
authorization.
gonna write you a check to stay there for 60 days?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's why I'm asking you to put that in the permit, so it's done. And as a property manager.
and who's gonna audit the 60-day thing?
I will, because I have to do it in a TOT. And in fact, there wouldn't be TOTs because it would be a long-term stay. But I have to submit it, I'm required to submit it on a quarterly basis, and I have to give the proof that it was a 60-day stay, and all my paperwork is documented in a professional property management ledger, so that gets submitted with the document saying, here's the name of the guest, here's the proof, and then I have to sign under penalty of perjury. And I'm not gonna put my real estate license at risk or something like that. So, I've had people.
I believe what you're saying.
No, I know, but I've had people call me and say, I want to do this in Mount Shasta. I say, you can't. I can't help you because it's not allowed.
That type of businesses and, you know,
Right.
they're gonna do it the right way, I mean.
Right.
So the weed muni code for the TOT tax, once you hit that 31-day, they no longer have to collect TOT. So with this minimum stay of 60 days, the city would not be collecting any TOT taxes on this rental.
Okay.
We're not collecting the city.
Can I say one more thing?
You bet.
We gotta ask the chair.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got in touch with,
We have rules.
I got in touch with the other homeowner that's building the other cabin, and he is completely against this too. I get it on my text, so that's 75% of the homeowners up there are against this thing.
All right, so do we have any staff response?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right, so we will close the public hearing and move on to the discussion of the project. The commission?
I have a question. In your staff report, you highlighted section 18.24.240, which talks about a home occupation permit. And all the way down at the bottom, it says, not more than one room in the dwelling shall be employed by the home occupation, nor more than one outbuilding. So this would require a home occupation permit,
Per their CCNRs, they are required a home occupation permit, yes.
so they can only rent out one room.
Per our code, that would be correct.
And do we have a home occupation permit at this time?
No.
No.
No. If they were to be approved for this, because they're operating a business, they would have to have, per their PUD, they would have to have a home occupation permit. That is codified into our muni code.
Okay. Any other
So how do
questions or
you, how do
discussion?
you plan on putting 8 people into one room?
I asked that earlier. It's not practical.
Not at all.
No.
All right, well, we've conducted the hearing and gone through the discussion portion, and so this is a portion if someone wants to make a motion.
One more. Never mind. No, go ahead.
So we're at the point of making a motion. You can make a motion to accept with changes, or to postpone.
I don't see where we have the right to change anything. When you buy property, you buy it with stipulations are on it. If it does have in there, as it does say, one room can be rented, you're renting the whole house. So that kind of broke the deal, didn't it?
So in this
Say you
case, it
have
sounds
4
like we
rooms, you
need to
wanna
have a
fill
home
them with all
occupation
these
permit.
people, with 4 people or 4 beds,
We can
and it
send
says
that
in our own
email.
code, you can only rent one room. How does that work? So can we change
Sorry.
our own rules?
Can I just make a motion to deny the application?
Yes,
You can?
I'll second.
All right.
Okay, so we have a motion to deny the application in a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries to deny the application.
I would suggest the property owner of that house meet with the people that own the other property and have a real nice discussion, explain to them in detail, and a real nice how to do it. We do.
We've actually had coffee with them and dessert. We don't have anything against them personally. They're very nice people. We welcome to them. We're able to.
So what, since we're
Okay.
talking, we're not busy, do
So
do you have anything against somebody renting it for a month at a time?
So
The wife,
Commissioner,
kids,
we've already
family?
voted on and passed this, so
Oh, I know, I'm
this
just
is
curious. I'll
done.
be back.
So we can continue discussion after the meeting adjourns, but for the rest of the meeting, this matter has been concluded. All right, next is the approval of the minutes from February 16th. Do we have any proposed changes to the minutes or corrections that need to be made?
No.
All right, so minutes stand as written. Do we have any commissioners' reports? All right, any further staff reports? All right, so this is the point where we can make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
All right, we are now adjourned.